There is this YouTube video I've been meaning to talk about for a good part of this year. It is from a writer at the Escapist magazine, and the main topic was about why he doesn't play good games. Among the reasoning was that while good games can give a good time, more often than not they just fail to start a conversation, unlike say Game of the Year contenders or bad games that are so terrible they go viral. The biggest reason I had this video in my mind is because, while I get where he's coming from, at the same time I disagree with the sentiment. Because if there is one thing I have learned by running my humble little YouTube channel, is that not everything has to start a conversation. Even if one day I manage to get people on my Patreon and start making money there, I wouldn't be looking at the games I play as trying to make a video out of everything in order to make money. And I think that's part of the problem. It is one thing to be someone who plays games as a hobby, to enjoy them, and a very different one is to be a critic with a long career where playing games and talking about them is more of a job. So the mindsets are actually very different. The reason I'm finally coming around talking about this is because a month or so ago, I played and completed Warhammer 40k Space Marine, on recommendation of a friend who is a big fan of the franchise. I won't deny, the game is really fun. And despite being a 7th generation third-person shooter, it still had its own little spin on the formula by giving you large crowds of enemies, different classes, and a really good storyline, even if it isn't very beginner-friendly for outsiders of the franchise. I did end up writing a review of it and even recorded the audio, but as I listened to the audio and gave some extra readings to the script, I ended up realizing my heart just wasn't into it. I found myself just listing the very few basic features the game has while desperately trying to stretch out talking about them. The pacing of the review started to feel off, and realized a bit too late I ran out of things to say, so I was rambling about different games and experiences just to stretch for time. So I'll give you an abridged version of what I think of the game. It's a really good game. I like the narrative and I like how different Captain Titus is compared to the most gruff military guys. There is a lot of personality to every character, and their rivalry with Grimskull surprised me in how intense it was.
Get off my ship, Space Marine!
But then, because I've been coming off playing boomer shooters, going from the adrenaline pumping intensity of taking down hordes of enemies while strafing all over the arena, playing something slightly slower like Space Marine felt rather jarring. Especially with how small and linear most of the arenas are, not helped by the very rinse and repeat pacing of having a gunfight, a walking segment, then another gunfight, then a cutscene, and then the occasional set piece where you get to play one of the 3 main classes for a fun power trip before getting back into the other stuff. And yet, even with the bullet spongy enemies or the big crowd battles starting to grow repetitive despite the campaign being 4 to 5 hours long, I had a lot of fun with it. To the point I would only recommend it if you find it in a bundle or a Steam sale, because for some reason it's still being sold at full retail price. Now imagine me trying to stretch those thoughts for over 10 minutes, and you can guess why I felt like I had to scrap that review, and I did try to salvage it. I tried with a rewrite, with revisions, and still wasn't feeling it. But you know what? It is okay I wasn't able to make a review out of it. I am still happy I got to play the game. I am now looking forward to the sequel, and I do want to check out the other Warhammer games I have on my library. It didn't start a conversation per se, but it did give me the most important aspect of playing video games. I had fun.
Heavy infestation at Front Point Validus.
Much like with Space Marine, there is a plethora of games I've been playing over the past 3 years that never really became videos. I ended up dividing my Steam library into 3 different categories: games I want to make videos on, games I want to play during me time, and games to play in the background while I voice chat with friends on Discord. Dividing things like this has actually made going through my backlog a lot more fun. It may sound crazy considering how my Steam library is, but it makes it feel a lot less overwhelming when you remember there is a day-to-day life outside of the computer, like going to work, socializing, and spending quality time with my family. What's funny is, sometimes when doing things like this, I end up running into some happy accidents, where the game I was playing for the sake of me time ends up becoming video material, because the game ended up surprising me a lot, and even writing the script for it becomes another layer of fun to it. But of course, that depends a lot on the game. For example, I've been playing Cluster Truck, a very frustrating and fun first-person platformer, one that has made me rage and also has given me a ton of excitement. I don't think I'll ever make a video on it, first because there's not much to say, and because the difficulty is such a core feature of the game, it even has a streamer mode, so there isn't much I could really say to make a difference. On the other hand, I've also been playing Flint Hook, a 2D roguelite game about fighting space pirates, and I've been beyond hooked into it, no pun intended, to the point I'm making more progress during my revisit of it than I did in many hours I put into it the first time a few years back. Now, that one could be video material, but the reason I'm not doing that just yet is because even though it is a roguelite and I have essentially seen almost everything the game has to offer, I still need to truly beat the game first, aka defeat the final boss and see the credits. It's a bit of a self-imposed thing, but I feel I need to make it to the end if I want to really say I experienced the game in its entirety, but depending on how things go, I could even make an exception and review it anyway because there is a lot I would love to say about it. There's thankfully a lot of time for me to choose what to talk about next. I already got several reviews coming up, and there are games I just can't wait to talk about, and why I've been rediscovering my love for gaming, because I'm going out of my way to make sure I am having fun all the way. This is why back in February, I made that video talking about how I was done being cynical. I get that it is necessary to call out bad stuff in the industry, and in the current social media climate, controversial opinions and hot takes are what's gonna bring in the traffic. But for me, I just came to realize that is not how I want to experience this hobby anymore. It is also why I don't really connect with YouTubers like Jatsi, Jim Sterling, or the many other YouTubers from the cynical side of gaming, because I no longer share that mindset. And because I feel I'm not gonna get anything of true value when they go into producing a video with a mentality on having to do this as a job, or just trying to think in which ways they can overblow the shortcomings of the game for extra quote-unquote comedy. I'm going to turn 35 next year at the time of this recording. I'm not getting any younger, and it's become clear to me life is too short to be getting mad at things that not only are beyond my control, but are also easily solved by playing something else, supporting a different developer. I'm not able to play every single release due to my economic situation, but simply going through my backlog has proven to be more fun than trying in vain to keep up with the avalanche of new releases that come out every month. Even if I did have the money to buy every one of those games day one, and trust me, I would love to play them. But until then, I will continue digging through my gaming library, see all the crazy hidden gems I can find, and if some of them turn out to be so good that they make me want to talk about them, you can bet there will be a video on them. And even if some of those don't, I will still be happy to have had experienced them, adding them to my list of completed games for this year, and just feel good on how little by little my backlog is being chipped away. Because by the end of the day, gaming is not just about what becomes the next great thing or what gets a conversation started, but also about just picking one humble little game, have some time for yourself, and simply feel the joy in the smaller things this hobby has to offer.